Alright, Piss and Vinegar Day 42, Arm Wrestling Forearms Day. So, last day of the week, Sunday, God's Day, and then back into training once again tomorrow on Monday. Doing my side presser training. What felt really fucking heavy last week is now feeling pretty manageable, pretty light this week. Again, 3-4 days into my maintenance calorie phase, and I'm feeling very strong, way better. So it just goes to show how much calories go into strength and muscle. I mean, I'm already feeling bigger, I'm already looking more vascular and strong and all that. So yeah, man, it's very, very keen now that the cut is over to get into training again. I'm just like, before training now, I'm really like motivated to train, whereas before, super unmotivated to train. Cutting is a real cunty part of bodybuilding and training in general, and next time I cut, I am just gonna crash diet. I don't care if it means I lose a little bit more muscle. In the long run, when you think about it mathematically, if you can bulk, say, 8 months of the year and cut 2 months of the year, or whatever the ratio is, you'll realistically make more muscle than if you do a long, prolonged cut and maintain more muscle throughout the cut, which is arguable anyway, because a lot of times a prolonged cut will have you lose a lot of muscle. In my case, a lot of muscle. So yeah, next time I cut, I'm going to do it way faster, way more aggressively. That way I can spend more time in my maintenance phase and in my bulk phase, because that shit fucking sucks. So yeah, side pressure, 37 kilos, got all 5 sets of 5. Last week I got like 2 sets of 5, and by the 3rd set I couldn't even hit a 5th rep. So yeah, way stronger today, way stronger. So that was good. So yeah, next session I'll be up to probably 38-40 kilos on my side pressure, and yeah, I at the end of my bulk I want to have my side pressure up to 50-55 kilos, and that's an elite range for side pressure, because I'll never have exceptional hand control in arm wrestling just because my hands are so small, or my fingers are very small. I have very large palms, very short fingers, which is optimal for side pressure, sort of a flop wrist technique. So that's where I really need to try and specialize in. Now moving on to some cupped wrist cup, so strapped in wrist curls rather. So this way it's more on my wrist versus my fingers, because it's side on. So this is more for my wrist strength, not so much my finger or hand containment as much. And then the next exercise is from straight on without it being strapped in, which puts more bias onto my fingertips. So from a hypertrophy standpoint, they're both really good. You'll get really big forearm flexors. It doesn't really matter whether or not you do it in a sport-specific way or not. You just need to have a fat grip to strengthen the hands, the wrists, and the forearms to get big, meaty forearms and wrists for you hypertrophy guys out there. But for arm wrestling, you need to do both movement patterns or vectors in order to get kind of the two different aspects of cupping and arm wrestling. It's not just wrist, it's fingers too. So this is the wrist. Man, it's funny, like literally 3 or 4 days into my maintenance phase, and like I already look bigger. Like my muscles just look way bigger. It's incredible how much muscles are just water weight and glycogen stores. And then I'm onto my left side, which is weaker, but this is way too light. I did way too many reps on these, so next session I have to go way heavier, because this is sort of a new way of doing it with these incline bench. And now this is the other variation, which more targets your fingers. I mean, obviously hit your wrist too, but this way it's try to kind of get both the wrist and fingers. So first one's kind of more a hooking technique, wrist curl. This one's more of a containment, negate the guy's back pressure technique, which for you guys listening who don't know anything about arm wrestling, this is all just fucking Greek to you. But if you like arm wrestling, you'll know what I mean by this. This is so that the guy, when they post up and they try to pronate out of your fingers, you can contain them. And then as far as just trying to get big forearms, this is about as good as it gets. Get a spinning handle and put fat grips on it, or get a rolling thunder handle if you can get one, or one of those things, and really just cup in and out. And you'll get big, meaty forearms like arm wrestlers have universally. Same thing, way too light here. I ended up getting like 15, 20 reps. So yeah, I'll have to kind of figure out what is a more appropriate weight for next session. But there's nothing wrong with higher reps. It just takes more time, more of a burn. And you know, it might be a matter of having the first exercise variation as low reps and this variation as high reps, because in arm wrestling you need to work on your type 1 fibers and endurance as well as your strength. Strength above all, but if you don't have endurance and you're in a long format match, then you're going to burn out quick and you're going to lose in the later rounds. I mean, perfect example is Devin Larratt. He hasn't got that top end power. He can't flash pin anybody, but what he can do is by the second or third rounds, if he gets a stop on you, you're fucked, because his endurance is vastly superior to most arm wrestlers. So it's good to have both, but strength overall is the most important aspect, of course. And with these, yeah, I kind of just do force reps, drop sets, nothing too fancy. Well, these are actually really good for being able to do force reps because it's unilateral, and it's so easy to just use the other hand to assist with the reps beyond failure, as you can see here. And then, I skipped that out. Now I'm doing my pronation machine. Finally got this into a good design, so it's standardized now. I'm using a shovel handle instead of the handle that you just saw me using with the fat grip on it, because it works better this way, and I was able to really rig it up correctly. So this is really good. My pronator was fucking fried from this. So yeah, I'm gonna make a video in the future on how to build one of these. It's quite easy to make. All you need is a U-bolt or a loop bolt, PVC piping 2 inches long, or in diameter rather, and then a shovel handle, and obviously the tools to make it, and some rope and a carabiner, and you can make a very, very good, easily used kind of pronation machine attachment for your barbells. And again, even if you're not into arm wrestling, your pronator muscle takes up a very prominent part of your forearm at the forearm attachment, or the elbow attachment rather, and really adds an extra pop to the width of your forearm. So if you're not doing some pronation alongside your extension and flexion work, you really should be. Whether or not you give a fuck about arm wrestling, it still will give you a very aesthetic benefit to your forearms, very much like the side lateral raise or the side delt. Small muscle, but has a huge benefit to your physique. And again, yeah, I'm going to be making a video very soon, and actually like one of my more high quality videos on pronation, and how pronation is very important for even non-arm wrestlers to build big, meaty forearms, essentially. So yeah, this was good. This felt fucking excellent. I prefer this over the rope pronation quite a bit. One of the greatest arm wrestlers of all time, Engen Terzi, swears by this, who is also known for his exceptional pronation. He is one of the best pronating arm wrestlers of all time. He's very similar to John Brzenk in the sense that he can cup in, he can hook in with you, and then roll you out of it. And I think this is actually super important for developing your ability to get into a hook and then roll out of that hook. And yeah, it's also just a very good way of standardizing your pronation. A lot of times when it comes to pronating with karate belts and stuff, it's hard to standardize. There's a lot of leeway there, there's a lot of fuckery, there's a lot of potential wrist injury that can go into that. Whereas with this, it's just straight pronation, it's straightforward, it's very easy to standardize the range of motion and the progressions. And in a strength sport like arm wrestling, your standardization on the movements are extremely important. There are a lot of videos right now of people trying to do Devin Larratt's strict pronation. They all bastardize it. They do it in a slightly easier way that allows you to do 10, 15 more kilos, which gives them the illusion that they're stronger than they really are. And a lot of the times that happens with your progression within an exercise. you'll start with it pretty strict, like a pronation movement. You'll start strict, and then 15 kilos later, you're not doing it strict, and you've falsely progressed. So anytime you can make everything exactly standardized, this is a much more reliable way of getting stronger. And then I move on to a sort of static hammer curl, or kind of a half curl here. I'm just trying to figure out how to get sport-specific hammer strength here, because I do hammer curls on my bicep day, but I do them in a bodybuilding sense in full range of motion, whereas this I'm trying to really strengthen the tendon and strengthen the muscle in this range of motion, because this is the range of motion you arm wrestle in. You don't do full range of motion bicep curls in arm wrestling. I mean, if it's very rare that you would do that. If you get fully stretched out in an arm wrestle, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to bicep curl the person back over to your side of the table. So this is again, I've been trying to figure out how to do a standardized range of motion hammer curl, and I think this is it. This is a very easy way of standardizing it. It's just the length of the karate belt. I stand up, I do it perpendicular, and then hammer curl up, and that's a very easy way of doing it. So this is probably how I'm going to do these from now on, because this was very easy, felt good, and felt very sport specific. And then after this, I finish off with some reverse curls, which isn't so much for arm wrestling. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's indirectly for arm wrestling, because the extensors do sometimes come into play on arm wrestling table, but more so, it's so that my flexors are healthy and strong relative to my my extensors aren't too weak relative to my flexors, creating muscular imbalance and wrist issues. And then from an aesthetic perspective, if you're not doing wrist curls, or wrist extensions rather, you're massively missing out on a lot of forearm size and aesthetics. So yeah, this is the finisher, and then that's it. And these are getting pretty strong, 30 kilos for I think it was 14 reps, and then I do a drop set, do a few more reps, and my forearm extensors after this were fully cooked. And I felt way more of a pump today in my forearms. Forearms are already a pretty easy muscle to get pumped, but now that I have all these carbs in my system, the pump was way better. Afterwards, I could barely move my hands around. It felt like my forearms had fucking rocks inside of them. So yeah, super glad to be eating carbohydrates again. Super keen to get into this bulk. And yeah, that's it for today. See you guys again tomorrow for more P1ss and Vinegar for back day. Bye-bye.